Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. Today I wanted to talk about how to follow up a bridge strike. Now, this is an interesting subject and one that I've had numerous dealings with across our various clients in the industry. And again, I'm pretty in pink for those of you that are watching on YouTube. Quite enjoying my new pink hoodie. If you're listening though, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. We don't mind that you can't see me. Although, why wouldn't you want to look? No, it's all good. Just listen in. It's all good fun, right? So, how to follow up a bridge strike? So, it's enough to make you tremble in your boots, isn't it? The fear of one of your drivers hitting a bridge, and you facing the consequences, and the driver facing the consequences of having to deal with the wrath of the traffic commissioner. So once you've finished crying and panicking after the bridge strike, we need to get to work, right? We need to get to work if that's happened. Now, there's lots out there on prevention of bridge strikes, and maybe there's another podcast for another day around prevention of bridge strikes. I think I have done this before, how we control and prevent bridge strikes. But I thought I'd do one on the actual follow-up itself and the importance of a good quality follow-up and investigation to a bridge strike. So imagine the scenario. One of your drivers has hit a bridge and they have, it's been reported to Network Rail. Network Rail have had the phone call, and you've just had the phone call to say the bridge has been struck, and you are sat in your office having cried tears of pain in advance of the pain that you're going to feel about the situation, and you need to get to action. So what are the steps you're going to take? So I think the first step is to make sure as quickly as possible we gather evidence at the scene of the strike. Okay, so what I'd look to do is to have a quick chat with the driver, not a formal investigation as such, but were there any diversions? Was there any issues around the signage, around the bridge itself? What contributing factors are present in this scenario that's taken place? And as soon as possible, I'd either get the driver to get evidence, or if it's in a locality where you can go and satisfy yourself, I would get to the location if I can and go and have a good look around and understand. Particularly if there's been diversions, we want to understand and gather evidence around those. Particularly if there's issues around signage, vegetation, growth around signage, the drivers haven't spotted them. I would also be making sure we gather evidence that there's a height marker, that the vehicle check has been properly done, and start to understand any contributing factors. So there's an evidence gathering exercise as a first port of call once Network Rail are aware of what's going on. Fairly soon after that initial incident, I would also be writing an email to the OTC with making sure that I included the operator license number, the vehicle and driver involved. I would be advising them that there has been a bridge strike. Network Rail have been notified and that we are busy investigating it, and we'll be in touch in due course with further information around that incident that has occurred. So obviously, I'm basing this advice on, or I'm basing this information on it just being a bridge strike and there not being any other sort of factors around human impact or people getting hurt. I'm just sort of sticking to the elements around a bridge strike itself. Obviously, if there's some more complicated factors, we may need to consider other things as well, particularly around injuries sustained and people and those kinds of things. But in this case, let's just focus on a vehicle striking a bridge and relatively speaking, there being relatively little damage, which there often is, to both to the bridge and to the vehicle. Although the vehicle will potentially need recovering, there'll potentially be issues, etc., etc. But aside from that, I mean, from the regulatory perspective around what to do following the bridge strike. So you've had the bridge strike. You've investigated, you've taken loads of photos. So you've started to gather evidence around the actual strike itself, and you've reported it to the OTC. I'll try and report it as best I can that day to say that it's occurred and that you're on with it. At the earliest opportunity, I would formally interview and investigate the driver to understand what aggravating and mitigating circumstances there are. So to give you an idea of aggravating and mitigating, so an aggravating circumstance might be that the driver didn't properly check their vehicle. It might be that there's some contributing factor that they've breached policy because they've not aligned with your policy around use of sat navs or mobile phones. It might be that they've not properly measured the height of the vehicle. All aggravating factors, and then also taking into account mitigating factors as well. So things like, is it their first time? What's their driving disciplinary record like previously? What's their tracker data like? What's their driving behavior like? Are there any mitigating factors around signage, anything like that? Make sure you measure the bridge as well. Make sure the bridge height is actually measured to make sure it aligns with the information that's been provided on the side of the bridge. So I'd start to investigate those things and try and understand a root cause. What is the root cause of this? And we're not just looking for driver failure here. We're not looking for driver error. We're looking for what is the human error, or what is the factor that's contributed to this bridge strike. And often there's numerous factors involved, but we need to just try and understand the root and other contributory factors as part of that investigation. We need to document that and write it up. Now, there may also be, it's not up to me to tell you whether to discipline a driver or not, but chances are there's going to be a driver conduct hearing for the driver, for the traffic commissioner to understand.
Hello, it's Shani from Flagship Partners. We are really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. If you need expert advice or training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We are really excited to announce the launch of our Transport Manager Academy. With expert development for fleet leaders, we offer fully accredited initial Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher, and operator license awareness training, as well as mentoring, support, and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is to develop elite fleet professionals.
The good repute of that driver themselves, and whether the driver needs any disciplinary action themselves. So we just need to understand what disciplinary action needs to follow. Ultimately, when I speak to people, a bridge strike is a known and foreseen risk, and it's an avoidable circumstance. So in most cases, it's going to be gross misconduct. The severity of the outcome of that will be between you and your HR advisors. Now, you need to make sure you follow proper HR protocol. So you need to ensure that drivers have their opportunity to write a statement, that you fully investigate, you find the root cause, etc. You also need to make sure you give 48 hours prior notice to any disciplinary meeting. You need to make sure that whoever is investigated doesn't then carry out the disciplinary meeting. It needs to be someone different. So it might be, as a transport manager, if you need to do that disciplinary, you might actually have to get one of your team to do the investigation, or you might have to call someone else to come and do the disciplinary if you have carried out the investigation. So that's an important thing to consider when you're preparing for this process as well. Now, often the outcome is going to be gross misconduct for bridge strike. It's similar to using mobile phone at the wheel or whatever it may be. Now, the outcome of that could be final written warning. It could be dismissal. That is up to you, and potentially up to the attitude of the driver, and the root causes and mitigating and aggravating factors involved. So I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty of that, but largely speaking, a bridge strike will be a gross misconduct situation. And that's in most cases that I've come across in my experience. And occasionally, some people often ask me, do we have to sack the driver? Do we not have to sack the driver? That's up to you. But once you've thoroughly investigated it, once you've thoroughly investigated the strike, once you've carried out the disciplinary, you've bought yourself some time with the traffic commissioner. What you then need to do is focus on preventative measures. So why has this occurred? And what are we going to do to effectively communicate to our driving team that this has occurred? And we need to ensure we avoid it in the future. So off the back of the disciplinary, off the back of the investigation, we then start to look at, is the policy effective? Are the control measures we have in place effective? Are we effectively measuring height? Are we adjusting our height indicators in the cab? Are the height indicators present? Have we properly trained drivers on the prevention of bridge strikes? Do we give clear and thorough information around use of sat navs and what those need to be and how they need to operate? Have we given sufficient training? I think I probably already mentioned that as well. So we need to really navel gaze at the activity we do proactively to prevent future bridge strikes, because I would be including that in my further communication post-incident, investigation to the traffic commissioner, to let them know that actually we've found this issue and that issue. And, whilst we, and just be honest around the findings of the investigation. As an operator, as a transport manager, had we done enough? And are we solely blaming the driver for not following their training, for not following their guidance? In many cases, we find that there's an opportunity for improvement amongst the findings, and that we might decide to roll out further training and communication. But certainly, at the very least, we need to be notifying drivers that a bridge strike has occurred, and we need to be keeping them informed of the root causes and the avoidance, the learnings from that incident as well. And then once that's all done and we've implemented all of that, we've got driver signatures, we've got evidence of training, we've got any policy changes we've made, any changes to the procedures that we've done, I would then write a follow-up email with all the outcomes to the traffic commissioner. So disciplinary has taken place, this was the outcome, this is the investigation, this is the root cause, and these are the preventative measures that we've put into place following that. And then you're in the hands of the gods at that point. So after you've submitted that, there may be further questions. There may be further requests for information. There might be a preliminary hearing. There might be a public inquiry, and there is likely to be a driver conduct hearing. So there might be further information off the back of that, at which point, for all of those, I suggest seeking further legal counsel. If you do have a bridge strike, Flagship Partners are here to help. We are here to help and support. So if you need any help with investigation, if you need any help with guidance, support, anything like that, responses to the traffic commissioner, how best to follow that up, please do give us a shout. We are here to help support you. I hope this has been an informative podcast. If I've missed anything, apologies. I have gone a little bit off the cuff. But I have done a few of these in my time. One of the benefits you get from doing the consultancy work is that we handle this a lot more regularly than usually a transport manager in an employed role would do, because we deal with various stuff and we tend to be the people who get called. Does a bridge strike always result in a public inquiry? Not always. Not always it doesn't, no. And often with a really robust follow-up and investigation procedure, it can be avoided. A preliminary hearing might be the case, but we have had them, where no public inquiries occurred, because for whatever reason the quality of the follow-up has been sufficient, and that's meant that an inquiry has been avoided, because the quality of information provided has demonstrated that the preventative measures have been taken. I am sure, however, if some of those operators that have avoided it, if it did occur again, they're very likely to be further questions and further points of fire from the Office of the Traffic Commissioner. So let's avoid the bridge strikes wherever possible. Let's take the preventative action before they happen, is my advice. Let's get the policies right. Let's get the training right. Let's get the height indicators right. Let's get drivers super aware of what the challenges and the repercussions and the reasons for avoiding it, and the costs and impact involved and the risk that's involved with it. Let's focus on that stuff. so that we're super clean if it does ever occur. But at the same time, if it does occur, hopefully this podcast will be useful to help outline some of the steps. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.